Okay, as you know, I'm Tony Gunnell. I do education and training. A little bit about my background to put some sort of perspective. I have been qualified now since 1983, so it's about 38 years actually total in audiology. I have worked for different manufacturers. I do currently do a lot of clinical support. I do a lot of fittings. I train people how to fit hearing aids and educate them on hearing and fittings. As an example, Tuesday I went to see a gentleman with dementia who was refusing to wear his hearing aids. He has expressive aphasia, can't tell us what's going on, but we were able to actually establish the reason he wouldn't wear the hearing aids was they were far too loud. And just making some simple adjustments, he accepted the hearing aids and his whole face lit up. So I know there is a purpose in what we're doing. Maybe I'm not on the clinical research side, but I work with these people and I'm fitting these all the time. And I need to understand what's the best thing for me to do and how I can train people to do that as well. I'm also on the BIHIMA, the British Society of Hearing Aid Audiologists Professional Standards Committee. I'm a volunteer member of their professional standards group. They're actually meeting elsewhere today, but I thought this was probably more important. We look at how the process works, what dispensers do. We look at standards, we look at common practice and how we can make that work better. We look at whether or not we should be encouraging further training or changing how the training is delivered. So again, it's important to understand what's happening that we can actually direct the training properly. Now, I see a heck of a lot of tweets about the prevalence of dementia, how hearing aids help, how eyesight is linked, how lots of things are linked. My first question is always, why are we tweeting this? Okay, yes, it is education, but are we doing it because we're trying to educate people to understand that getting a hearing aid is the right thing to do, or because we want to sell hearing aids? And I think it's important that we have the backup so we can actually say, this is why you should be wearing hearing aids. There has to be a sort of a call to action. People need to accept hearing aids for the right reasons, not just because we want to sell them. We have a difficulty compared to opticians, for instance. Hearing aids are less acceptable. There are still a proportion of people who will not wear hearing aids regardless of how invisible or cheap they are. But it's getting to educate these people, I think, and understanding why people don't take up aiding or look after their ears in the same way they may look after their eyes. Dementia, if you have a look, is linked to so many things, including, and it just surprised me, which month you're born. Can make a big difference, apparently. How strong the evidence is, I don't know. But there are times in your life where your brain is developing, your brain needs stimulation, and if it is deprived, and that may be from not getting the right education, it might be from illness, it might be from social engagement, lack of physical activity, it can affect your outcome in future years. Some people are less responsive to looking after themselves. They don't look at the long-term impact, perhaps, and they may be more susceptible in the long term to these problems. And they may be the people who actually take the risk of not doing anything about their hearing as well. So again, how do you educate people? You can't force people to do something they may not want to do. So how do you educate people to understand that this is all part of their well-being? Hearing aids have changed dramatically. I've been working 40 or 38 years in the industry, and my first hearing aid was one that had two batteries, one strapped to the leg, one strapped to the waist. That was the first hearing I'd ever fitted. Nowadays, we're looking at artificial intelligence. So you'll see that as the big buzzword in all the manufacturers now. We're looking at artificial intelligence improving how hearing aids link to the world, how we can improve not just hearing, but life. And that is very important. Hearing aids are now part of the whole process, so we can do far more than just help people to hear better. Still some concern though, we still look at as a disability rather than, and there's a lot of negativity around what we do, I think, in the field. how people perceive hearing loss. People have very self-defeating behaviour. They don't wear a hearing aid. They will struggle on because they don't want to be seen to be wearing a hearing aid and looking old, as an example. People see it as a handicap. It's not. So people withdraw. They don't have to withdraw in the amounts they do, because we can do so much with hearing. Part of that, though, is hearing aids need to be well fitted, need to be well supported throughout the life of the hearing aid. It's not good enough just to fit a hearing aid and hope for the best. As an example, and this was yesterday, actually I did this in yesterday. I was doing a clinic yesterday. This client went to a hearing aid dispenser and they told them they didn't have a sufficient loss to worry about hearing. What do you do? This person telling me, I have problems hearing the television, I have problems socially, but an audiologist told me I don't need a hearing aid. He's now been fitted with two. So people tell people, you've got a mild loss, wait, come back and see us when your hearing loss gets worse. We should be doing something, even if it's just starting to stimulate the process. And I think, again, it's educating the audiologists, the hearing aid dispensers, as well as the public. That's important. A lot of the questionnaires we do to find out how people manage hearing aids is, what situations do you not hear well in? I think the question now should be, we should be looking at what situations do you want to be involved in? How can we improve your life so you're not just doing what you're doing now? What else could you do? Now, I have a lot of knowledge about the blindness as well because of family reasons, and I know that having a condition doesn't stop you doing anything. You find a way to do it if you want to, and I think it's encouraging people to think through those processes and become more aware of what they can do rather than okay, I'm here, I've got this problem, I have to slow down. The World Health Organization has looked heavily at this. We should be shifting from disability towards health and well-being, inclusion, and inclusion is very difficult. Socially, people get lost, not necessarily because they don't want to be involved themselves, sometimes because other people won't involve them. It's hard to approach someone with a disability, and that includes blindness and hearing. So people tend to steer away, and people get excluded. So we should be shifting from what's caused the problem, to the impact of what we can do elsewhere. When you look at the statistics, and NeuroTrack, which BIHIMA's been involved in, 85% of hearing aid owners better than expected. So people have low expectations quite often going into wearing a hearing aid. 70% of hearing aid owners should have got sooner. Now, I was in a position, and this is 18 years ago, as a team manager for a national hearing aid chain. And I looked at the figures that they produce. I looked at their figures. We were obviously trying to help them to see more people. And I looked at the audiograms. And I realized that people weren't actually buying a hearing aid until they reached a certain threshold. And that's normally 7 to 10 years after they first noticed they got a hearing loss. So I said, why don't we do some screening? We did. And we actually improved the acceptance of a hearing aid by about 2 to 3 years. So it is education. If you don't approach people, you don't give them the opportunity to have a look at what's going on, they will never understand. And it's not natural to look, oh, will I go hard of hearing in 10 years if I don't do anything? We need to be telling people that we can do things, and we have to look at what the baseline is so we can look at how we can introduce these things when it becomes necessary. So it becomes a positive impact. It affects the family. I see it all the time. It's actually the same amount of stress on the significant others in that relationship as there is just on the person involved with the hearing loss, or sight loss, or whatever it is. They get embarrassed on their behalf. They have to do the translating, if you like. So it becomes very difficult for them, it's very tiring for them. So we're not just helping the person with the hearing loss. We know stress can cause, or it has been linked to dementia, if you like, and it can have an impact on the family. The International Classification of Functioning from the World Health Organization, although a spouse does not have a health condition, they may experience activity limitations, so we are actually impacting on the whole family, it's not just the person. We know exercise has a big impact on general health. Those are the national health statistics, widely published, so we know that there are a lot of things that are involved here. There are various figures. 70% of the care home, I think, was a national health figure. I think other figures are 80% of care home residents have dementia. And as I say, I saw this gentleman on Tuesday in a care home with dementia, and his face lit up with the hearing aid was on. So we know there is that stimulation, that awakening, if you like, and that all helps. Social interaction is a big thing. Hearing aids enable social interaction, especially if they're fitted correctly and well maintained. And they have to be well maintained. So it is a long process, it's not just an immediate effect. A lot of things we've done in the hearing aid industry, if you like, because we've always done it that way. We have a questionnaire, we have referable conditions, which we don't touch, we have different things that we do. We all fit hearing aids in a certain way. We don't often challenge the client, we just get them hearing better. And I think that, again, is something that needs to be looked at very strongly. What we can do to improve their situation, not just maintain the status quo. There are obviously questions that look at questionnaires which are heavily used, like the 7-minute study, the MMSE, mini cognitive studies. They're similar, they're all different things, but should we be doing that routinely when we fit a hearing aid? Should we be involving the spouse more by giving the spouse a questionnaire to understand how the spouse and the lifestyle, should we be looking more at lifestyle in this industry? Is it something that we can do? Is it something that would be beyond the training as it stands, that we have to look at future generation training of audiologists and hearing aid dispensers so they can be involved more in these more challenging environments? So there's a lot of factors that are involved. As far as the industry goes, as I say, 30% of people wouldn't have a hearing aid if it was free or invisible. I cannot remember for the life of me where that figure came from, but I do know it exists. I would find it. So should we have dementia awareness training so we can identify the risks and conditions? What are our goals? What should we be looking? And is it holistic or atomistic? Is it something this industry should do alone? Or is it something that we should go out and look at all industries? And I'm talking about optical, because there are tweets from the optical that untreated hearing loss, untreated sight loss leads to dementia. As shown up in an earlier slide. So should we be all working together for the general health of the users or our population? Should we be screening people? Can you just screen people? And if so, should we have a baseline for everyone? And at what age would that be? Technology is not just, as I said, hearing aids anymore. We are moving into AI. You will see significant changes in the way hearing aids work, what they can handle. We've already done things like noise cancellation across the board. We actually take the noise out, maintain the speech, so we're able to quieten down what goes into the brain, if you like. We're able to limit people. So you do have people who have auditory processing issues. So what should audiologists and hearing aid dispensers do differently? Should our qualification change, be updated? Should our scope of practice change and be updated? These are all important questions that, from my perspective, we need to be looking at. Okay, so that's from an audiologist on the field.